A tool is already in production, and the review never saw it. Someone put a SaaS product on a corporate card, signed up with a work email, and pointed the product at tickets or files. There is no purchase order. There is no written contract. There is no intake. The grant is already issued, and the people who constrain vendor risk were never asked. Shadow buying bypasses the review because a tool bought without a front door never enters the folder. The written contract cannot constrain a grant nobody recorded. Third-party risk management, TPRM, only constrains what it can name. A tool that never entered intake has no name in the program, and a grant with no name cannot be reviewed, limited, or revoked on purpose. A card, a trial, and a work email can issue a grant before anyone opens a folder. Shadow buying is the purchase of a tool, a service, or a library without a front door. Shadow procurement is the same habit with a longer name. A team becomes a tiny procurement desk. A person with a corporate card becomes the buyer. A developer who drops a package into production becomes the buyer. Nobody procured a vendor as if the firm were a product on a shelf. Somebody bought from a vendor, or from a public repository, without asking the rooms that sign, defend, and record. The organization still owns the impact, because the data the tool can already read is still yours. Shadow buying has three common forms, and they do not share a purchase order. The first form is a SaaS tool on a corporate card, started by a manager who needed a tracker this week. The second form is an open-source package a developer dropped into production, often with no written sales contract and no vendor manager. The third form is an artificial intelligence plugin pointed at tickets, mail, or a document store. Each form issues a grant. Each form can read or change something the company still owns. The review that waits for a purchase order will miss all three. Speed creates the habit because the business is paid to move. A unit wants a new cloud tool, and the clock starts. Security is paid to question assumptions and to slow a deal that can become a catastrophe. When those two clocks share no front door, the unit treats the review as delay and walks around it. Friction that is not earned becomes a workaround. The workaround is the card, the free trial, and the personal workspace that later holds company files. A program that only knows how to say wait will keep teaching people to start without asking. SaaS makes the walkaround cheap. Software as a service can be started with an email address and a card. There is no dock, no crate, and no installer that a desktop team must approve. The product is useful on the first afternoon. The identity connection, the file sync, and the API token arrive as setup, not as a purchase. Setup feels like configuration. Setup is a grant. A grant that nobody recorded is already a path. The old receiving dock forced a conversation. The browser does not. Intake is the front door of vendor review. Intake criteria are the facts you collect before the deal is allowed to run. Data class, access type, and how the vendor sits in the architecture. A missing intake means those facts do not exist when the tool starts work. Nobody recorded whether the product will hold regulated data. Nobody recorded whether it will join identity. Nobody recorded whether it can execute code or read a repository. The review cannot score a blast radius it was never told about. A folder that never opened cannot hold a score. A card charge creates a payment. It does not create a revoke clause. It does not create a notice duty. It does not put the token into identity and access management, which is the system that grants, reviews, and revokes keys. Legal can only bind a party it can name, to duties it can write, for a system it was shown. A folder that was never opened cannot hold a clause. You cannot sue a path you never wrote down, and you cannot revoke a token you never enrolled. Shadow procurement is how the path opens before TPRM is invited. The sequence is ordinary, and that is why it is hard to see as a bypass. A manager needs a tracker. A trial starts on a work email. A token is issued so the product can read a calendar or a drive. Files move into a workspace the company does not administer. The tool becomes the way the team works. Weeks later, someone asks procurement to paper the deal. By then, the grant is habit. The data is already in the product, and the review is asked to bless a path that is already open. Blessing a path is not the same as choosing one. Papering the deal later fails for a structural reason. Intake is designed to decide whether the grant should exist. A retrospective review is designed to decorate a grant that already exists. Security then repeats an assessment. Legal rewrites terms the product will not change. Procurement reopens a price that was never negotiated. The business sees delay and blames the review. The delay was baked in when the tool entered without a front door. Rework is not caution. Rework is the bill for skipping the door. The unregistered tool is also technical debt. Technical debt is the pile of design, security, and operational shortcuts the company will have to repay later through a rewrite, a tighter control, or an incident. The debt is not only old code. The debt is a token nobody rotates, a workspace nobody can export, and a host nobody named. An incident then pins the response team to a product that cannot do forensics, which is the disciplined reconstruction of who touched what and when. A grant that was never enrolled cannot be reconstructed on purpose. The path stays open until there is a front door that is faster than the workaround for honest work, and stricter than the card for work that can hurt. A front door is a single place to start a vendor search, a trial, or a card spend that will touch company data or company identity. The door does not exist to slow every purchase. The door exists so the facts exist before the grant is issued. Low-risk tools move on a light path, because a door that punishes a calendar booking becomes a door people walk around. High-risk tools trip a deeper review when clear triggers fire. Risk-based intake is the name for that split. The split is how TPRM gets invited before the token is born. Those triggers are regulated data, production access, privileged identity, code execution, artificial intelligence on sensitive repositories, or a role in critical operations. The point is not to interrogate every plugin. The point is to put the hard questions where the blast radius is large. A calendar tool that holds no regulated files can clear the light lane the same day. A plugin that will read source, join identity, or hold payroll cannot. Depth means different questions, not a longer version of the same form. Putting a front door on shadow buying is operational work, not a poster. Publish one intake form that a business unit can finish without a glossary. Connect finance so a new SaaS charge on a corporate card raises the same intake. Give developers an approved catalog and a fast exception path, so the honest shortcut is inside the door. Put every issued token into identity and access management the same week it is created. A grant that is not in that system is not managed, whether or not a written contract later arrives. The door is real when the card, the catalog, and the token all ring the same bell. What good looks like is a deal that can be named on the day it starts. Data class is known. Access type is known. The architecture seat is known. The token has an owner and a revoke path. Low-risk tools cleared the light lane the same day. High-risk tools waited for evidence, not for a stamp. The business still moved. Security still saw the grant. Legal still had a party to bind. That is a front door doing its job. The review was invited because the door existed, not because someone later felt guilty about a card. Shadow buying is a tool purchased without a front door. Speed and SaaS cards create it, because a useful product can start on an afternoon. A missing intake means there is no purchase order, no named owner, and a token already in production. Put one door on the search, the trial, and the card. Keep a light path for low risk. Fire triggers where the blast radius is large. Enroll tokens in identity and access management. The review can only constrain what it was invited to see. Thank you.